Well, anyway, big welcome to everybody who's here right now. I have a sense we're definitely going to be joined by a number of other people as we move along, but I'd like to stay on time. We do have some people who are joining us from India, and they're starting very, very late. So we need to make the most of every minute we have so that we don't overextend their beauty sleep. So, Bill, you have been in the past week looking at various types of programs and frameworks which we might use to begin our pilot project with as a SIFA plan. And you've come to some unexpected conclusions, and it would be good if you could start with a summary of what you've done and where you want to go, and then we can open it to the group.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, everyone, as you, most of you know, if you were with us last week, we established a subgroup to look into the platform to get something up quickly. We said the best way to go quickly is if we could go out there and just use an existing platform and then go forward from there. And it would be staged. So in stage one, just get a platform up and working, and then stage two, add some of the functionalities that we need, and we would go through several stages until we get to the point where we've got the SIFA plan as originally intended, would be fully implemented. Because of last week, and then it was Monday, and then getting started, it actually was Wednesday, I think, before we actually had the group established, and some people were joining us after that. And there were some other obligations that I had. So we didn't get as far as we would have liked last week. But as we got started, because we were talking about taking a platform similar to any e-commerce site out there, and using that. So and there's so many out there. They're empty. You just go, you can start putting in the products and services that you want to offer, and they would people would be able to then buy them, and then we would from there add in the whole concept of the supplementary income, and then the restrictions for sustainability on the products and services and so forth. But as we got started into that, and I was going back and looking at the actual original documents for the SIFA plan, I noticed that the major point of the SIFA plan was that so many of the ills that we've got in the world today are due to the concept of a market economy. In other words, the concept that people are trying to sell other people's stuff, trying to convince other people, you have to buy this, you need to buy this. You're not as good as your neighbor if you don't buy this. And so this market economy and capitalism, that these are a major problem. And that the actual SIFA plan was based on the idea of a needs-based economy, so that we're not producing stuff in the hope that somebody's going to buy and use it, which results in a lot of waste, but that we're producing things because people need them. And we try to match up the production to exactly what is needed. So we minimize any waste out there that's using up the resources, and we minimize perhaps people who are in a rush just to satisfy somebody's need, and they're not concerning themselves, well, what impact are they having on our environment and our planet in the process of doing that. So at any rate, I put into the group, and I'm not sure that everybody here that's on the call is part of that subgroup that's intended to look into the platforms that are available. So what I'd like to do today is, I guess it was around Wednesday, I published a list of the sequence of steps that, according to the Coister plan, would be there. And I realized that, some of us were still looking at saying, oh, well, look, our primary thing is, how do we provide people the means to be able to sell their products and services so that they can earn a living, and move forward from that. And that's a market-oriented approach, because I'm starting off with what I've got to sell rather than necessarily with what the needs are. Now, we saw last Monday, Lysinka had suggested to us, had sent out to us a table requesting each of us put into this table our wants and needs. So we could do a little test in our group here to see, oh, okay, we're going to start off with, here's the list of all the needs and wants. And then we go into the discussion and the decision making and so forth. But we were looking to see, can we find a platform that would basically simplify that process and let us jumpstart into something that we could open the door to many, many more people. So I'd like to start off and just inform everybody, bring everybody up to date, what was in the original plan as far as the sequence. So I'll share the list that I submitted out to some of the Commons cluster groups and so forth. And then we can look at that and see if there's any comments or discussion on that. And then from there, I'd like to go into what are the steps to make it a reality? Okay, here's the theoretic approach that we're trying to satisfy for a needs-based economy. But what are the steps that we need to go through to actually have that platform up, to be able to make sure that we're vetting or validating the sustainability of the things that people are wanting or needing, and then be able to go and find producers who can produce things in a sustainable manner, all the way from how are they sourcing the materials to the production process, to making sure that everybody involved in the process is treated fairly. We're not exploiting people along the way. And even to the point of saying, okay, what happens after the use of these things? Can they be sustainably recycled or gotten rid of? So we have a whole sequence of that. So I'll go through those, and I'll talk about specific platforms out there that we found that can take care of some of that. And then we can open it up, because if we all agree on that, now we can start to do what we maybe were hoping to do last week, where we go and look and make contacts to some of these platforms out there to say, hey, can we grab your platform in such a way that we're going to be able to modify it to add in our sustainability vetting and to add in the concept of the supplementary income, so that we've got a closed economy that's handling the all the accounting that goes along with the that closed economic market there. So if everybody's okay with that, I'd like to open that first document, and we'll just go through the sequence here of what we discovered here that we believe was the original intention of the SIFA plan, and then go into what I think the sequence of work that we would have to do to have the platform and have it be usable, and then we can go beyond that, because there are other models beyond the market model and the needs-based model. There's some other models that might be even temporary or along the way, and that we can discuss those. And the idea here is that going forward this week, because we now have a more accurate starting point, that I'd like to see those that are engaged in that group of looking at the platforms and making the contacts, that we actually are able to get right into that work and help move the process forward. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, Bill, I think that's a very good idea, and it's nice to get a sense that we're moving forward.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this was the first part, the recognition that looking at the platforms, there's two basic models out there that we have for a digital marketplace. The one is the Amazon model that is basically, hey, here's everything we got for sale. Go ahead and place your orders if you want something from the list. But that does nothing. And of course, we could have a way to mark those products that we say these are sustainable products, but it does nothing to encourage or require the producers to make sure that things are sustainable. But the other approach is based on collecting the needs. Is everybody able to see my screen here?
I can see it, yes.
Okay.
Small, but I
Yes,
don't.
we can see.
Can
Okay.
everybody else? Because
So
not everybody.
I'm going to
They should
read through these points as I highlight them. So those of you. So the basic thing is it's the second model is based on supporting the collecting up of the needs and desires of everyone, collecting these for sustainability, and then fulfilling the approved wants and desires. Those wants and desires that we verified are sustainability, and that. And I just said here that that model supports, I think, what Lysinka was trying to introduce us to last week. So, and then I went into the fact that we've got all these documents that describe the SIFA plan and so forth. But when we get down to saying, okay, how do we actually implement it? There's nuances. We need to be more detailed so we can be more specific. So this set of 8 steps here outlines what was identified there. The first thing that we would need to do in that economic model is we need to identify the needs and desires. So people and communities worldwide identify their needs and desires through interaction with development workers. That was the original plan, who would facilitate this process with no coercion or anything. Just facilitate collecting up what the needs and desires are. And then we need to have a decision-making process, which was called for as a sociocratic process to vet to all these wants and needs to make sure that they are that they're sustainable. So this would involve the local groups discussing and consenting as to which goods and services are sustainable and beneficial based on what the people said that they need or wanted. And then once we have that list of approved good sustainable goods and services, that these are then validated to go into the marketplace, the SIFA marketplace. And so that would result then in basically requesting proposals or going out there and saying, okay, hey, here's what's needed. Who can satisfy these needs? Who wants to provide? And that could be a major company saying, hey, we're going to go and we offer to make 10,000 bicycles for this country or whatever. But it could be that local handyman that says, hey, I'll take on the job. Somebody says they need a roof fixed in my town. I'll take care of fixing that roof. And they make their offers. And then we have to, though, go and take a look, because even though we know the product and services is not harmful based on when it was ordered, we still have not checked whether the manufacturer, that producer, is going to produce the item in a sustainable fashion, whether it's, as I say, the sourcing of the raw materials, the production process. We're not using some kind of chemicals and we end up with a lot of waste that we're tossing out into the environment. So we have to validate the producer's proposals. And then once we approve okay, here's the producers that are approved to satisfy those needs. There may be 2 or 3, might be a little local company that's got a handful of bicycles that they have available in their community, or it could be that 10,000 bicycle manufacturer there, and they have different prices, different delivery conditions, whatever. And so this is where that we close the circuit, in that the consumer now selects from the different vendors, if you would, the different providers, which of those they want to accept. And as they accept that proposal from the provider, that is what closes the loop. Now we've got a real order. we have somebody that said, I need this, and we have somebody that said, I'll produce it, and we've made the connection of these two, and so now the funds can be transferred, the SIFA funds can be transferred from that consumer's account into a form of an escrow account for the producer, because the producer still hasn't produced it yet, but now they've got it's up to them. It's almost like a letter of credit on an international transfer. All I got to do is, if it's free on board, as soon as I put those goods on board, the money's mine. I don't have any doubt that the provider or the consumer can't change their mind, and I produced it and wasted all that money. So that's there, and according to the Questor plan, that money that's in escrow can be used as collateral to enable the producer to get an interest-free loan, if you would, interest-free credit, so that they can buy the materials that they need to buy or whatever to complete the job. So, and then we get into finally delivery and payment. So once we have proof of delivery, once we have proof that, okay, the goods and services were delivered, the money goes out of the escrow account into the provider's account, the producer's account. Now, and along that way, we have the conversion of the SIFAs into local national currency, according to whatever the agreed upon exchange rate, which we knew from the beginning. So that's when the producers said their pricing for their offer. It's all based on their knowing, okay, this is what the conversion rate's going to be. So that's the basic concept that we said, okay, these are the things we need the platform to be able to handle if we're going on this idea of a needs-based economy. So before going any further into that, I just want to let's maybe discuss this part, and then I'll go into how some concrete platforms out there and some concrete steps and sequences that we can go through to be able to end up with a system that does all these things. So comments, questions, please, on this understanding of how a needs-based economy works. Please.
Bill, I think you left out a couple of steps.
Oh, okay, please.
One of the steps is that we have to have the decision-making process.
That's the vetting. I called it vetting.
Process is not at the end, because we first have to make sure that we have the decision as to which goods and service can actually be marketed sustainably. So the needs and the producers need to be brought together.
That's in there. I just didn't call it that. If you'll notice here, I say here that when the local people in the local community, after in this particular case, working with the the local development workers, they say, hey, this is what I need. Then we have the vetting through the sociocratic process as to whether that need or service can be accepted. Just because somebody says, I want something, does not mean that there will be agreement that they can get that through this system, because it may not be deemed sustainable or harmless to our people or environment. So that's right up front. Once we start off with somebody saying, hey, I need this, or I want this, and then the sociocratic process steps in and says, yep, okay, that's acceptable, that we can go with that. So that's the first part of the validation, is saying we approve that you could get that, but we still don't know if anybody can offer it. So then after we do the offering and we know somebody is saying, I can provide that, then we have to get into whether that producer is acceptable because they're using sustainable methods and processes to fulfill that request. So I think here we've got both what you're talking about here on the sociocratic decision-making process. That I think that's in here.
I'm going to just continue with that because what we want to avoid is that then it's the development workers that decides what goes and what does not.
No,
Uh,
that's, we said here at step two, it's the sociocratic process that makes the decision.
where would that come in, Bill?
It's right after once somebody says, I need this, or I want this. And then the decision-making process at the local level takes a look and says, is that okay? Is that okay? You can have that, or is that going to damage our environment here? Or do we believe that's something here that is not going to be harmful to people or planet? And only that want or need does not exist. It's only provisional until it's approved through the sociocratic process there. And then as we go up, of course, then that gets merged in with all the sociocratic processes at the other levels that add other products and services that people from other parts of the world maybe said, hey, or other parts of that ecosystem within the country or within the region. As they go up, we get more and more stuff added. But it starts off with somebody said, I need or want something. And then this sociocratic process saying, is that want or need acceptable?
Yeah, so then what we have is then a two-phase process in which somebody says, I need these things, and then there's a whole sociocratic process and decision-making that decides whether the things that people need should be acceptable.
Right.
And then we go to the producers and we have that process again. So a way to get around that would be to have the needs and the suppliers coming up, and then we have a list of goods and services that people are interested in, and then we could have the sociocratic decision making on all of the whole thing at the same time. That would be
The problem you're going to run into that is that that would be when the local community is putting together their list from all the members of their community, and they're putting together the list of the wants and needs. We have there's millions of providers out there that can satisfy particular needs. And so to be able to go out there and say, okay, for producing this particular product or category, that manufacturer is okay, that's not something that every local decision-making circle is going to be able to decide at that time. We don't know who out there is able to produce or serve satisfy those particular wants or needs at that point. And so,
so the way I think the plan works is that you start actually with decision making so that people start off and saying, well, these are the things that I'd like to see on the list. These are
right.
the things that I could produce for the list. And then once you've got the whole list of what is available and what is requested, then the decision-making process, it is sort of continued until they've decided on what is on offer and what can be brought, so that the decision-making process comes at the same time, concurrently with the people's list of needs and what they can produce.
Yeah, but they were talking about groups of 25 doing the decision making, and the odds are that 90 to 95, 99% of needs and services will be fulfilled by outside of that group of 25. So I think here when we go and try to apply this to real cases, there we can have people say, I can provide this or I can provide that. But that's one of the very things that Koistra wanted to get away from, is people saying, hey, I can provide this, trying to convince other people to buy it. So the idea is you start off with the needs list. Then there's no problem. You're definitely going to invite people locally to say, hey, yeah, I can provide this piece or I can provide that piece. But if I'm in a small community and I've got 25 people in every one of these little decision groups, the idea of somebody saying, I need a bicycle, or I need a sophisticated machine part, the odds that that's going to be able to be provided locally is essentially zero.
Yeah, Bill, as I understand the plan is that, it starts off with groups of people of 25, and we would start off with a group of 25 because we're about 25 people doing it. So we would start off with a small group of people who will then put out what they need, but also what can be offered under the SIFA plan. That would be sort of what is the motivating point for the local groups to get started, to be able to put out what they can offer and what they actually need. And you're quite
Yeah,
right, would have to
can,
start.
can I speak something here? Can I say
Yes, please.
something here?
Yes, Amos.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. You see, the SIFA plan, by my understanding, is a global platform that will benefit all
Right.
the sellers and the buyers of sustainable goods and services. So I am on the view that we must make it competitive enough in the sense that every community in the world has a peculiar product or service they offer. So we must tie product and services to various communities and regions, while those who are offering different ones, we buy from them, while they buy from others. In that way, it will be competitive enough, and there will be continuous flow of these sustainable products and services. So we need to look at this, look at it in this angle, in this dimension, so that we create a competition and a flow that will be continuous of buyers and sellers from different communities in the world. So
I think
we definitely suggest we make there should be a survey, a deliberate survey, and guide communities of what they could offer from different communities that the SIFA plans will be tested on. Thank you.
Yeah, I think here the basic premise was that the original plan says we need to get away from the idea that we are selling products, because that's always
Well,
trying to
I
convince
hate
people to
to
buy
interrupt
stuff.
it. I think you're very right that the whole thing is oriented towards the needs, but at
Right.
the same time, as Amos is pointing out, quite rightly, the first list has to do with what people need, but at the same time, those sustainable goods and services that people can offer. And that goes into the first list of the groups of 25. And it's a thing that they're motivated because they need them, but also motivated because they feel they can produce these sustainable goods and services. And then later on, once the whole list has been decided on what is available for sale, but also on offer, then you get sort of the final list in which the two are brought together. And then you get the actual financing brought out. And I think that we have to make sure that we don't start with needs and then that was not in the original plan, as I understand it. I do realize that what you say is correct. It's not forcing people to buy. It is based on people's needs, but at the same time, it's based on people's capacity or their needs to produce something sustainable. And so I think we can't have the two-phase project. I think we just need to do the two at the same time in the beginning. That otherwise it would be too cumbersome. And that we start off with a small group of 25, 30 people, however many we are, sort of looking at how we can do that. So
The question, Lasinka, on that is that are we trying to encourage people to because let's say, and I'm trying to avoid us as a group because we're scattered all over the world and we're more from a particular socioeconomic background. So I'm trying to envision some community, let's say in central India or wherever, So people are saying, hey, these are the things that I need. And we can definitely go and say, okay, people, put in what you can provide. But in many cases, people might be saying, I can provide this thing sustainable. Nobody in my community needs it. But the thing about it is, I know people in these other communities out there, they need that. So I can offer that. So
Yeah. An aspect of that, Bill, is that as we move along in the plan, more and more people will become producers. They're following their passion. They're finding out these all new things that they can do. And these new ideas and new ways of developing, of education, etc., are all being made available. And so you're beginning to get a new economy that is eventually not based on physiological needs, but is an economy that is based on the creativity of people. So I think let us just keep it simple in this first stage, in which we sort of bring the needs and the desires together, because we'll be just working with a small group. Now, what do you have, Bill, in terms of a system or a program that we might use in which we can put out the needs and the people that also have the need to develop and to put something that is sustainable out there on the marketplace? What would you have? What type of program or framework would you have for us to do that?
Well, basically, there's no framework that does what you want other than the kind of doing both at once. There's frameworks out there that enable you to post things to sell, and a marketplace that's based on, here's thing to sell, and you can now buy from this marketplace. And there are platforms out there that say, here are needs, and people who can satisfy the needs, please come and pick off of the wants list those you can satisfy. Now, those platforms, a lot of, not all, but a lot of the platforms out there that are handling the need, we know the Amazon approach for the market-based and e-commerce. There's a gazillion out there for free. So many you can plug into a website or whatnot for free that will enable people to post what they have for sale, and basically doing an eBay, if you would. And then people can go and say, I can search this for stuff I'm looking for, and I can put in my orders. Very, very difficult on that to figure out, because we have to think that what might work. Let's think your test of 25 people is totally useless for what you're doing, because as soon as you go and this platform grows of markets and things like that out there, and you're providing people the list, I think I mentioned there's something like 150 to 200 million products out there in the world. As we combine all these local lists around the world, we're ending up with a form of an eBay. If we're using it as a starting off with the products and services, we said, okay, these are sustainable and okay, we're still going to have hundreds of thousands of products in there, and people will start searching through which ones do they want. And that may no longer be what their original list was when they submitted that list of what they said, hey, I need this, because they see something, say, oh, that's cool. I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's what I want. So that's one approach. The needs-based ones that are out there are mostly charitable types of organizations. So, for example, one of the big ones here in the US, and there's actually a couple of them competing in that space, enables schools, if there's things that schools need that go beyond their budget, but they need certain supplies and other things in the school, or they want to hire an additional counselor that goes beyond the budget, they just put in the list of all the stuff they need. And then all kinds of charitable organizations and others and wealthy people, they review those lists and they say, okay, I'll fund whatever that need was. I'll pay for that need. And so the school gets the supplies that they need. That is perhaps closer to the needs-based platforms that we're looking at here, because it began with somebody saying, here's what I need. It doesn't have in it the step that somebody said, I'm going to review what that school said they needed and see, do I believe that's sustainable, or do I believe that's harmless to the society and so forth. But it handles the situation as saying, here's where we've collected up all the needs of all the different communities, the schools and whatnot, and we are making that list available to everybody who is in a position to help out and take on and satisfy those needs. And they're very successful. There's quite a number of them out there, and there's
Yeah.
other areas of
Yeah, sorry, go on. I'm sorry, continue.
for in healthcare. There's similar platforms out there in healthcare where somebody can't afford their medications, or they need a surgery or something like that. So there's a number of these platforms, and then there are the commercial ones out there where companies can go out there and say, look, I'm looking for who can satisfy this particular need we have, and people can put in and say, I can satisfy that need. So so that's the needs base. But to have both of those coming together and then doing it, you've got to have some kind of a process sequence. It doesn't work to do it
Bill,
in parallel.
the thing is, think where we're going wrong is that you have quite rightly pointed out, it's not a platform where everybody says, look, I've got this for sale, I've got that for sale. That is not the idea. The idea is that people look at what they do need, but it's not just needs-based. It's based on both, on what is on offer and what is needed. So it's not just a needs-based economy. It starts out with the decision making where people make lists of things that they would like to see available in the marketplace, whether those things are for sale or whether those are things that they need. There's nowhere in the SIFA plan that says they have to start with the needs. It's a list of goods and services that a little group decides that they want to see available on the marketplace. And so that's where they start. So let's ask then, is there a platform where we could actually put out things that people would like to see on the marketplace, just goods and services that
We could take the platform, for example, as I say, these needs collection platform, and we could go and say, okay, we're only going to use that to go and come up with the needs and services. I don't think you're ever going to get a platform that where you're going to be able to vet all the providers that are out there that could provide things, because there's too much unknown at that general time. You can say that the product is okay, but you still don't know whether the provider of that particular product would be okay. So you still need the two-step to be able to go and validate what the wants are, and then you got to be able to validate that a particular producer for that particular want would be doing it in a sustainable fashion, so that you
Bill, then I want to just go back because I think we're putting the cart before the horse. If we say, okay, we're going to make this framework the most important thing, and there's no framework that fits it, then perhaps we should go back to the plan.
no,
And
the framework, it's not that the framework doesn't fit.
the plan starts out with groups of people deciding on what goods and services they want to see on offer in the marketplace. That's where it starts out.
Okay.
And then we need to wait then with the marketplace until we have that decision-making process.
Wait a minute. If I could just go and say, okay, you're saying we start off with what people want to see in the marketplace. So fine.
Start off with what Koistra asks us to do, which is making lists in small groups, making lists of what we want to see in the marketplace, whether it wants an offer or whatever it is.
So we come up with a list. These are the things we want to see in the marketplace. So now these things are in the marketplace. But the problem that we've got here is how is that group in that village in DR Congo going to be evaluating here that some manufacturer in Nigeria is using sustainable methods or whatnot for that? And that list here,
the way that works, let me respond to that. The way that works is that there are local groups in different parts of the world, and the ones in the Congo, they're dealing with goods and services that they would like to see. They're going to be tied to the type of cultural, economic place where they are. So that group in the DR Congo is going to be coming up with one sort of list. The people in Holland at the grassroots are going to come up with a different sort of list. And the list of the people from Holland is going to go, the local groups are going to be vetted at the next, say, the county level, which would also be people from that sort of culture. Just as in the DR Congo, they will have also groups of the DR Congo, they'll have it of other West African countries perhaps, and then the next list, which is made of all the lists at the local level in that group, would again be by people in that culture. And then as you move on up, you begin to get lists that are more and more which have gone through the people in a particular culture and looked at from the cultural perspective and that particular area. But then it goes in, and then the groups become more mixed.
But the reality of the world is the things most people need are not produced locally. So the problem is that
It doesn't matter,
Nigerian,
Bill.
it
It
does,
doesn't
because
matter.
the Nigerian company that could satisfy that need in DR Congo, maybe nobody in Nigeria wants that and needs that. So there's not going to be any want or need in Nigeria. So how did we get that vendor, that manufacturer in Nigeria to be responding and demonstrating that they have a sustainable production method to satisfy that need in DR Congo?
Bill, what happens is that these lists come together at higher and higher levels
Right.
of people that have that put things on the list that they can offer, as well as things that they want. And
Right.
as lists come together, eventually you get to the one at the global level. And at that level, you can see, well, which things are on offer and which things are needed, and can we bring together? And at that level, you begin to see how much extra money you can make. But then
So
you
if we've got that now at the world level, let's say we've got all these lists have been consolidated. We've got here all the wants and demands of millions and millions of wants and desires, and we have this list of millions and millions of things that providers can provide. And presumably we've checked out the sustainability on both sides when people put it on the list. Is that going to result, though, in, let's say, those groups of 25 in DR Congo that are wanting some item produced that's not produced locally, that maybe some manufactured item, a bicycle or whatever, to go and say, okay, we need to go and vet all the producers of bicycles around the world to see whether we accept that?
Well, by that time, when it's got to the global level, at each of those levels, they're looking at the goods and services that they want in that area or in their region or in their country or globally. So the groups are looking at that, and they're looking at each of them to make sure that it's sustainable. Whether or not a particular an item that I might want is on offer, well, if it's not at the global level on offer, then that's not something I can have. I'll
Right.
have to have
Okay.
something else. But I will have put several things on that list which I might want.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that it has to be just this one thing I need.
Yeah.
And
So at the global list, we have this global list now. So we put all of that into the marketplace.
Once it's been through the global level. But now
So once we're at the global level, we put all those products and services, and so we've got an Amazon-like platform, and now all of the individuals go back in and say, okay, we now have the approved list of all the products and services, and now I'm going and placing my orders. Is that what you're envisioning?
No, and then the economist can say, okay, this is where we have tradable goods and services. These are the goods and services that people want and that can actually be produced. And once you've got the marketable goods and services, then you can create the hard currency. And on the basis of that, they pay for various things, including the basic income. And that basic income then becomes the amount. And then people at the grassroots level say, okay, I've got this income. I wanted several things on it. Let's see if that's available in the marketplace. And then they can go and get that particular good or service.
Okay, so summarizing that, so we're collecting up all the needs, we're collecting up everything people say, I can provide these in a sustainable fashion. We're vetting those at whatever levels along the way. We get the master list of here's all the products and services based on being able to have the system match up what production can be matched up with what needs. We decide how much money we're going to be able to distribute in the marketplace, and we put those into the individual accounts, and then people go into the marketplace and they order what they want, which might not be the same things that the economists use to figure out how much money could be made,
Yeah.
because people change their minds and when they see what's in the marketplace. But that's got to be adjusted, so that gets tweaked along the way. So so that is what you're envisioning. We can do that. We just have two platforms at the beginning where we have one group putting in, hey, here's what I would like to see in the marketplace. This is what I need. And we've got the other group saying, hey, and this is what we can produce. And those lists go on up through the decision-making process. And so we end up with a comprehensive master list here at some level, and decide out of that how much money could be made, how much economic activity that would result in. We create the funds, put it into the accounts, and people can spend up to that much account on ordering products and services. Correct?
Gil, you've almost got that absolutely perfect. And I like these sort of interchange we've had, because I think a lot of people on our who are with us are not really familiar with the decision-making process. But it's not so much that people say, this is what I want personally, and this is what I can produce for others. It's more the lists which are made initially at the ground roots level is, these are the products I'd like to see in the marketplace. Not I want them. Of course, it's propelled by the desire to want something and like something.
Yep. No, that's fine.
Let people say, let's have these goods and services and let's see, are they sustainable? And then people at the grassroots local level ascertain which are the goods and services that we could have, and then are deciding that at the next level, the new list, the new groups at the higher level are deciding that these first lists are indeed sustainable, but they might find some products that are not sustainable, they're taken off the list. Then they go up to the next level and so on. So basically the first question is, what are the goods and services we want to see in the marketplace? Not what do I want, although that motivation is there, but what goods and services do we want to see? And then once that list is finally made, then at the grassroots level, everybody can actually make their decision.
What's the danger here that if I'm going and just saying, hey, this is what I'd like to see in the marketplace, that you've got people coming up and saying, well, here's my list of the 5,000 items I'd like to see in the marketplace, because I'll decide later on what I want to actually buy. But I'd love to see these, just like I go to the store, the supermarket that has the biggest offering. So I want to maximize what's going to be available that I might want to buy.
I want to just say, well, let's go back to the ground level, because the ground level is 25 people. And those 25 people are going to put together a list. If I say, oh, I'm going to have 5 million elements on the list, the people say, come on off it, Lysinka. Let's be realistic. What are the things that you would really like to see on the list? Not sort of abstractly, but what is it that you really feel should be and you want on the list? And I think that the group is going to make sure that people don't get into wild sort of conjectures. They know that what they're asked to do is to create goods and services that can be put in this marketplace, not abstractly trying to become consumers, no, but just the things that people really would want to buy. So I think that these groups are supposed to be self-correcting. Anybody that comes up with wild conjectures and stupid ideas that people think are really off the bat, they are going to have to say to the rest of the group, okay, this is why I want this on the marketplace. They have to, in the sociocratic method, come up with a rational reason for wanting something if what they want is questioned by the rest of the group. They can't just push their desire through. It's something that they have to be rational about and clear about. So that the group is self-correcting in the sociocratic method.
If somebody was going out there and saying, "Oh, I want this spice and I want that spice because those are things that I use all the time and I'd want to be able to buy those. I want to be able to buy some kitchen utensils. I'm just envisioning here, you know, when you go to 25 people saying, what would you order? And each person comes up with 2, 3, 4 items. That's one thing. But when you come out there and say, what would you like to see available in some store that you went into to do shopping at? People generally come up with huge lists. I'd like to see all these things I'd like to see in that store.
No, Bill, so the whole idea is that people get together in groups of 25 and talk about what goods and services they would like to see. Now, if I'm a baker and I want to have these and these spices and they're sustainable, okay, they can go on the list. There's no problem with that. Nobody's going to say you can't have it. Those are things. You can put as many things in the marketplace as you like. And as long as you have sort of buyers and sellers for each of the items, they go towards this new economy.
Okay, I think I can describe that. I can put that. Mark Sora has had his hands up a couple of times here. Can we hear Mark? What were your thoughts? Mark, are you able to unmute yourself? There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
You're
Thank
still.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this chance. I had a concern whereby, let's say, we have the categories. Have we identified the categories? So after the identification of the categories, like Lesinka said, we as the people who are really, really involved in the grassroots levels, let's say we have our needs. So what are the services as an organization? What are the people from the rural communities? What are the services we can provide? Yes, so we wanted just to know about that. Also, Bill, we are very happy on the way you are taking us. But as we mentioned earlier, you see, like most of our people from DRC Congo, some from Tanzania, some from other parts of Kenya. Our main concern is the connectivity. Connectivity is really killing us. Many people love to join the meetings or the Zoom meetings, but you'll find like the data, you just put the video on and your data is depleted completely within even, you will not even take 10 minutes. So you just find somebody vanishing from the meeting. And so if we can, as you said, if we can do pilot projects to know, just to make us know each other, the sustainable pilot projects, just to make us know each other, know the way the SIFA plan will be working, so that we develop or come up with the culture of what we need, what we can offer as organizations, because also we have community-based organizations which are working under the organizations. We have youth groups and women groups which are also working with at the grassroots level. And every youth group or women group, both of them have challenges. You might find people are coming from the same village, but they have different needs. Some lack water, some they lack basically like health centers. Like right now, we are approaching the rainy season in Kenya. So you'll find some places are flooded. When it is raining, we are disadvantaged. When it is during drought, also people are disadvantaged. Cattle are dying. People are taking dirty water. So like we can, water is everything. If water, we can do water in different, let's say, in phases. Like pilot run, you start phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So phase 3 will encompass distributing water in the whole village so that each and every household get clean water. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. The thing we have to do, I'm a systems architect, so I look at things and I say, look, I have to take things from the abstract. I have to get them down, because imagine this is something you're building with your hand. You can't do it on a generality. You've got to know exactly the specs of how you want to shape this or you shape that. You can decide, hey, in phase 2, I'm going to throw away this thing I made in phase 1 and replace it with a better one in phase 2. But at each step of the way, you've got to know exactly how it works and what the rules are. So I'm just trying to get those down. So by putting out a draft like this, we're getting it in, and Lysinka has brought in points here that change the sequence. So we got to go and look back now and say, okay, if we have to capture both, you have to capture what those needs are and what that. And as far as the accessibility goes, it could be somebody with a piece of paper sitting in that meeting at 25 in that village that's just jotting it down, and then they get on a bicycle and go to the next place where they've got a friend who's got a laptop who puts it on a laptop, and they go and hand a memory stick to somebody who takes it and then goes and uploads it somewhere. So there's ways to get around that, but the basic idea is to say, okay, we want to capture both those needs and the ability to satisfy. We want to have a decision-making process at that local level, that the only things we're going to leave on the list are the things that we approve that are okay and sustainable from our perspective, and a sustainability from a world perspective. And then as those lists get consolidated up, that dictates what will go into the marketplace. Now, the thing that's very important as we talk about in doing pilots and whatnot, as Lysinka said, it's only when we get the consolidated list at the top that we can make the decision as far as how much a new currency can we create based on the economic activity that currency would cause. And then we're able to distribute that currency back out to the consumers that would actually do the spending. And of course, the consumer could be the 10 people in the village that got together to say, we're going to order a water pump for the village. So I think that the purpose of today's session is for us to really expose the things that we say, oh yeah, that's pretty accurate. Oh, wait a minute, this point here, no, it wouldn't work quite like that. We need to modify the description so that we get it down to where it is truly detailed enough, so that when we go and look at a platform, that we've almost got the checkpoint to say, well, this platform's got to accomplish A, B, C, and D. Did it accomplish all of those? Oh, it accomplished A, B, and D. We still have to come up and say, how are we going to satisfy C? And so as we work through that level of detail and we come up with those final specs, and then we can identify the platforms that are there that we can use as is, the platforms that we can get our hands on that are modifiable to be able to add in certain aspects that we need to be able to accomplish all the functionalities that we need the system to be able to accomplish.
So what we really have done now, Bill, I think, is to to make central the fact that we want to have a platform that lists good and services that are needed and goods and services that are on offer. And so we need to have a marketplace which lists goods and services, again, needed and on offer, and that are then from there, we have to have the decision-making process which vets those things and see if they really are sustainable. And then those will then be the goods and services which are on offer on the marketplace. Then another dimension to that is the people. And that would initially be just the people in our pilot project. That would be in the beginning, just so that we understand how the SIFA plan works and how, how that would all sort of come together. That's just the first step of our work in the SIFA plan. In that process, people might say, oh, I want this. And somebody says, well, I can help you with that. That's a different level that might come about. But this first level is to create a marketplace in which we put goods and services which are on offer and needed. So a whole list of goods and services. And then we also need to have connected to the marketplace, everybody in the world. And in our pilot project, it would be everybody here who would want to be part of this pilot project. And somehow we need to fit that with the marketplace as well. Is there something that comes to mind, Bill? Because you've been looking at that, and other people here, I believe, who are on this in this group, I don't know, but I don't see some of our regulars here, like Joan. I know that Abby wasn't able to come. Artie's not here. Mona's not here. Joan's not here. There's a number. Lloyd isn't there. So there's a lot of people who are very central to this process who I don't see in the group today. So I'm asking you, Bill, you're the most knowledgeable, I think, of all of us in terms of what's out there and what framework would list goods and services which people want to see as sustainable.
One thing we need
any way of adding people's names to that marketplace.
We need to have first a categorization function, because as we drill down, we can sort of say, okay, food is a category, but as we get into food, there's all kinds of different food, and somebody might say I can provide some wheat, and somebody can say I can provide some corn, and then we've got people saying I can provide a particular spice. So we have to have some way to drill down, because people can't look at lists with 100 items in it and make sense as we're going through the process. So we've got to have a way to be able to drill down, and they exist out there. That's not a problem. But I'm just saying we need to have that there, because we have to determine what's the degree of detail that we go to. Does that baker who's saying I need spices, do they have to specify each spice that they're looking for? Because there could be issues that certain kinds of spices are very difficult to harvest without ecological damage. So the decision-making process might require certain levels of detail. We need to spell that out so those things become possible for the discussions. So what I'm suggesting here, and Joan and Lloyd have been in contact with me, I will flesh this out. I'll make some modifications to this so we can gather both. We know right now the main thing of what you've said is all of the preliminary discussions about what can be made available and what people want to see on the list is only intended for us to end up with the list of here are the approved products and services that can go into the marketplace. And I don't know if you're trying to say from that that includes also all of the lists of the providers, because the question is how do we get the multinationals, the big multinationals, where do they go to the town where their headquarters is based, or they go to the town for the list, the group of 25? Which group of 25 are those groups in? Or once we've got our basic list, are we now inviting everybody else? Hey, here's all the list. If you've got any products and services that you believe are sustainable, now you can offer to add yourself as an approved provider for
Oh,
that
well,
particular item.
I think that this is not the way it would work. I think the way it works in the SIFA plan itself, that everybody in the world is on the list. And on that list are also people who are parts of multinationals, etc. And there are people who have just a you know, a one-person business, and there are people that have no business at all. So there'll be people, everybody who's a participant would be, and you know, everybody in the world would
Right.
be on this marketplace. In our case, it would be all those of us who are associated with this pilot project.
Right. But if
And
I'm
we'd
a
have
mayor of a town and I'm an individual, when I go in and ask for what I would like to see on the list, I'm answering that as myself. I'm not answering that as the town or the village. The same thing with a corporation, the CEO of the corporation, they're in there as an individual. That they're as the corporations or companies are entities that are just like people. Are we adding all of those non-biological entities into the system as well?
No, so people will say this is what we want on the marketplace. Now, the CEO of this big company might say, well, you know, in our company, we have these and these goods and services which we consider as sustainable, and we'd like to see these on the list. And that list, you know, that CEO who's walking at the local level initially, he will put something on the list, and that will be vetted throughout the system as it goes global. And
Okay,
so he can, you know, they can put their individual goods and services on, but they don't join as a multinational. They join as a person. And
okay,
if they're a person that can provide, you know, a whole lot of goods and services that are sustainable that other people want, okay, let those be put out there on the marketplace. And
sure.
then eventually we have to get what people want and what is on offer together. And that
Okay.
will eventually determine how much money we can
Right.
create.
Right. But that doesn't indicate that when the time comes for people to make purchases, that they have to stick with what their original requests were.
No, no, no. Nobody makes an initial request. People
Okay.
put out things on the
What they
list,
want to see. Okay.
presumably what they want, but
Right.
possibly what they think somebody else needs.
Sure.
You know, what
So
somebody
so
in another country might
right.
need.
So now we've got we've got our master list of all the sustainable products and services out there, and who are our vendors. And then when people go in, they go in and to the marketplace. They look for what they want, and it shows them here's all the people that or entities that are
No,
able to
no, no,
satisfy.
no. They go and they say, I want to have this particular good or service. And somebody else seems to have put it on the list, and they might have that available. And that person might be right next door, or they might be, you know, a few
Right.
countries over, whatever. But nobody's going in as sort of being a provider. No,
No, no,
they're
no. I'm
put.
talking about the consumer later on. After we've already made the list of all the products and services, the consumer is now able to go through, go back into the thing and say, "Oh, here's all the list of stuff I could buy. It's all that's there," and they're able to go and say, I'm looking for this radio or a radio," and they're able to see, okay, here's all the people that can provide the radio. Some are local,
No,
some
no,
are
no, 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 no. They are able to see that particular radio is on offer, and
yeah, but there might
then
be 10 people
they
offering.
who is able to produce that radio,
Yeah.
and, and so then that's the next step which comes in. But first of all, everybody's just looking at the goods and
Oh, no,
services.
you're right. You're right. When we go in, just like when you go to Amazon, you say, I'm looking for a radio. And then you only after that do you get to see, okay, yeah, it's available. And it's available from 10 different providers. And now you choose which one you want to get it provided by.
No, and then the person that's the closest one that produces that what you need will be the one that with whom you would be making.
Why? And maybe that closest one is costing 10 times as much. Or the
Well,
closest one does not have certain features that you would like to see in the radio you want to buy.
that's possible. That's possible. You will choose the radio you want, and then the radio you want, you would see who's making that offer. You'll see the radio that's on offer, And if it's the one you want, then you say, I want that radio, and then you can still see how far away it is, etc. That all comes into it later.
But normally when you're looking at the features, you're combining price, delivery time, and the features. That's a combined thing that goes into your decision as to which one that you want to put your order in for.
Possibly, because I have just so much money. And
Mhm.
so when I want to spend my basic income for the year, I will then look at what is on offer and I will choose that product which is most likely. If that's a product that comes all the way from the other side of the world, and you know, I might not want to choose that one. I might want to choose something completely different.
We see in West Africa, for example, on food. In West Africa on food, almost nobody buys locally produced food because it costs 3 times as much as food that is delivered from Europe or North America. Because
Right.
the
But
cost,
then if I'm buying food and I'm living in that poor area, let's say, I might indeed want to buy the food from another country which is not so expensive, you know. But again, the decision comes in from the individual who
Mhm.
says, okay, I've got $500 to spend. Let me look what's on offer. I've put out the things I wanted, etc., and see where that's on.
Again, can I come in?
Yes, please,
Amos.
Amos.
Yes. Yeah, I'm thinking, let's concentrate on products and services that can lead to production. For instance, getting people to set up that money in mushroom farming production, snail farming.
Illegal. I'm awfully sorry, Amos. I'm not hearing you clearly. That's partly my fault.
What Amos said here is to try to focus here on things that could lead to production. But I think, Amos,
Yes,
that is
that's what I'm
covered
saying.
because if somebody says locally, hey, I have the capacity to provide so many tons of mushrooms over the year, or so many tons of snails, or whatever, and they're able to put that in, it goes onto the list. So if somebody says here, hey, I'm going through and I'm looking for healthy things to buy that have high nutrition values or protein values, and then I see, oh, hey, here's some snails is good, and they go in and say, okay, who could satisfy my requests for snails, and then those producers that put in that they would be in a position to provide it would come up on the list, and they would get the order if they're competitive on all the factors of delivery time and cost and quality and so forth.
Yeah, great. So you're clarifying this thing, Amos. Thank you.
Amos, does that cover your
Yeah, actually, that is the line I'm thinking, because that will lead to sustainable production while the consumers get it. So there will be a cycle of income, because the essence of the SIFA plan is to cure poverty, hunger, extreme hunger, and injustice. So by so doing, we get people into production. They have a means of livelihood while they also consume from them. So that's the way I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Amos, I'm awfully sorry. I'm a little
he
hard
was
to hear.
talking about a primary purpose be to provide people with livelihoods, and I think, Amos, to that point, the primary thing is to provide for the sustainability of the world by not having waste, and not having the waste in the form of people producing things that they don't know whether they're selling, so they're trying to convince people to buy because so that they can get their money back. But I think that's covered because, as I said, if when people are putting in saying, what do we want to put on the list? We want to put on the list the products and services that we are making that are sustainable. We'd like to see them on that list. That'll go through the vetting process of the sociocratic decision making to validate, yes, that's okay. That's sustainable production and so forth. we approve it to be on the list. And once it's on the list, then, and once people have gotten their funding, they're able to go and place the orders. Now that's going to result in the person that said, I can provide the snails, with saying, oh, gee, I better go get a couple of extra workers here because I got a lot of orders for snails here.
Yeah, Bill, and also Amos, you're quite right. I think the greatest urgency is felt by people who really need their primary needs met. But I think that in our pilot project, what I saw happening was that we were all belonged to organizations that needed help. For instance, I desperately need help with AI. And I waste a lot of time on that. And if I had somebody who was somebody who said, okay, I can provide help, Lysinka, with AI. I can give you so many hours of help for your basic income. Then, that would be good. And what made me see it as being viable to have a pilot project amongst the people here is that we all have organizations, and when we would not be able to deal with the material, we wouldn't be able to deal with transport in our pilot project. In the pilot project, what we can deal with is intellectual knowing, is expertise. So in our pilot project, probably we would be geared to the type of expertise that each of us needs and that others can supply with their organizations. So it would be at that level that we would do the pilot. We don't have any means to organize transportation for material goods. So it would have to be.
In that case, I think even the digital aspect, there are a number of soft digital skills that people can be engaged on. All they need to be the needed is to be equipped. So that is another angle we can look at it for the pilot scheme. Yeah.
And Lysinka, I think we have to be careful. For us to do a pilot, to go through the game, if you would, of saying, oh, okay, let's list off the things we'd like to see on the list in the marketplace and so forth. If that marketplace is not capable, it's got to be capable of handling all the needs. And people like Amos and others on the call today, they are in places where they can hook up villages and local people where they are real needs, and they can process those even in a pilot mode. I think we get too theoretical if we only say, okay, let's go through the game and say we put together this list and we got 50 items or 100 items on the list, and how would this look and how would it work and so forth. We can describe that. We don't need to go. I think everybody's imaginations that are on the call are good enough to understand exactly what that process would look like. And when you're trying to put something into place, we have to be able to describe this in such a degree of detail so that the people who would build it and actually use it on the ground know exactly how each piece of it works at each stage. So I think the next step,
we would possibly put in specific material needs, if there are people who, and we can always see if there's nobody who can provide needs that lives near somebody else who needs those needs, those things can be on the marketplace, but they will not be bought or sold, so they will fall off when we actually put that particular version of the plan into action.
Yeah.
So I think anything can go, Amos.
Well, right now, because we got only 7 minutes left here. I think the number one thing is say for this coming week, we have a lot of things that were discussed today. I am going to try to incorporate all the additional points to update these documents here with these additional points so that we can verify that we're all in sync. Yes, that's the flow. That's how it would work. And then we can identify what particular tools and platforms out there could we plug in for the individual pieces here, and then people can start to go and say, do they have any questions remaining to any of the individual items that would be steps along the way. And I think that's what we should try to do for next week.
Bill, I would like to leave the next meeting until we actually have a platform lined up.
That's,
Because if you could come up with a platform next week, fine. If you can't, then we'll wait until a platform can come up so that we can move to the next step. We don't want to go redefining what their plan is, which is basically, again, what we have done today. We've been refining and explaining once more to
we need that
ourselves.
in writing. We need that in writing, Lysinka. First, we got a lot of people that aren't on the call. We have to be able to have everybody see in writing and saying, yep, that's the way it will work. Then we can get a platform here, because there is no platform that is going to do all the stuff you're talking about. They will all need modification to do that. And so we've got to identify the platforms. How close does it get to us? What notifications do we need to make? And then we can figure out what of those are needed for a first generation that people would be able to use. We don't need to do them all.
Bill, what we have been doing a lot of has been explaining the plan. And we keep having new people.
We saw how much new differences came into that just today. We need to.
I don't think anything new came into it whatsoever. These have been things that have been in our document on our website right from day one. So there's not been anything new here. So I would like to make the following suggestion. I will be willing next week for anybody who would like it to give a rundown on the plan, because there are a lot of people that don't know the plan. I will suggest a document that they can all look at and study. And for those that have studied the plan, I will give an overview of the SIFA plan for anybody who wants it. In the meantime, you and your team will be looking at possible platforms that we can use for the pilot project as a next step. We need to have a next step in the pilot project. Unless you see a different next step, we need to move ahead on the pilot project.
I think we can do asynchronous. We can do on paper, on Google Docs. We can get the documentation out there. The documentation we're talking about, Lysinka, is totally different from the kinds of documentation you've been creating. You've been creating theoretical documents that are not translatable into computer code. We need to be at a level that translates into computer code. And for that level, we need to be much more exacting. And this is exactly what is done in this interface. This is exactly what's done in that interface. This is exactly what's done in that function at that level. That document is something I want to try to put together, and we get everybody to agree, understand, or ask questions about those details. And when we have that, now you can go out there and start to say, okay, what are the platforms that actually, or what are the tools that actually can satisfy which parts of those functions?
Bill, I don't want to begin at the beginning every time. Every time we start at the beginning, because we have many new people. We also, I'm looking here, we have Ernestine. She is she's very much part of us and has been with it right from the beginning, not just in the last weeks, but for a long, long time. But there are many people that have just joined. I do not want to have to completely go back to the beginning of explaining the plan and getting everybody on board, and then
That's what I'm saying. We don't want that. We don't need to have that kind of general explanation right now. What we need right now is almost picturing a computer screen interface. This is what it looks like. This is what it does. And this takes it to here, and it goes into this database here, and then it gets processed this way by another interface that takes it and process it this way. That is what I'm talking about. That
all
is
right. Could you get that together? Could you get that together?
That's
and
what
then
we'll work on.
You then have something to present. If you can get it together by next Monday, do you think you could?
Next Monday, I think, is not realistic here. Let's take figure 2 weeks.
All right. So then what I will do then is next Monday, I will offer a pilot, I will offer a discussion of the SIFA plan for anybody who wants it.
Okay.
And then in 2 weeks' time, you will come up with this document.
We'll have a document here. We'll have passed it around for anybody that wants to comment it on before the meetings, so that we're not just introducing it in the meeting, but we're having a discussion because people have already been informed of the details, and they may have comments or questions on specific aspects. And that's what we want to do. We want to get into the discussion mode and go beyond the presentation mode.
Lovely, Bill. I think that you've done a wonderful job in sort of clarifying what's needed. Do you have the feeling that you have the information that you need, Bill, to be able to take that step?
Yeah, I definitely have enough to get it started to the next step, and I will be talking to Lloyd and Joan and others to make sure that we've got their input in there as well.
Great, that's wonderful. So we'll count on that for in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks.
I'm wondering whether I'm going to be there though, Bill. Unfortunately,
Well, we can work that out online. So we are. Oh wow, we are right on time.
Yes, exactly. So I will be here next week. I will not be there in 2 weeks' time, Bill. I'm taking a holiday.
Okay. So suggest an alternative for the 2 weeks. We can. You know what? Let's wait and see as the document is progressing. We can make the decision then on the time, because we'll know where we are in terms of the documentation and so forth. We don't need another meeting if we're not 100% ready for it.
That's right. Okay, so is it desirable that I give a workshop in coming Monday? Is that, would people like that, or do you feel that you can get the information you want from document? What is the general feeling? Can we get sort of a show of hands? Bill, is any way you can get a show of hands of who would like to have a...
Yeah, let me close. I'm going to close my screen so we see everybody. Okay, so yeah, if those who think it would be valuable to have a general overview again on the plan in a Zoom call as opposed to the documentations that we'll be putting out. If you think there's value in an additional face-to-face overview, please raise your hands. Otherwise, we'll try to do the same thing through documentation. Okay, so we're getting some hands.
I don't see anyone with raised hands.
Juliana's hand is up. Rachel's hand is up. Mark's hand is up. Yes, so we are seeing here Pamela's hand is up. Steph, Abakar, Dossi. So okay, so you've got a good crowd that thinks it would be valuable for you to go over the plan again next Monday.
All right, so I will put out a document, and I would ask everybody to read that document. Let's see, Dosse, I did send you a document. It was machine translated French. We're going to get a good French document. Was that useful, the French document that you got? C'était utile. Je vous ai envoyé un document en français, mais c'était une traduction faite par une machine et c'est pas professionnel. Est-ce que c'était utile pour vous? Vous avez pu le lire, Dossé? Dossé, vous pouvez m'entendre?
Ah, oh non, je vous attends. Non, je n'ai pas pu lire ça. C'est un document sur... bon, je vais regarder. Je vais regarder.
Vous l'avez pu lire et c'était clair? C'était...
C'est pas... Non, est-ce que c'est envoyé par email ou bien par WhatsApp?
Vous pouvez l'utiliser. C'était OK.
Non, je n'ai pas. Il faut me renvoyer ça. Je n'ai pas lu.
Je n'ai pas vu. Je l'ai mis sur le WhatsApp.
Ah, je vais chercher, je vais trouver ça.
C'est possible.
Mais je n'ai pas encore.
Allez chercher de nouveau sur le WhatsApp pour le document
Non.
français que je vous ai envoyé.
D'accord, d'accord. Il n'y a pas de problème.
Oui, bien, très bien.
Oui.
Okay, Jean-Paul, do you speak English? Jean-Paul? Vous pouvez comprendre anglais?
I think he's frozen. Oh, wait, there
Okay.
he is. There he is. No, wait, he's there. Jean-Paul, Lysinka asked whether you are understanding English. Okay. He might not be
Okay.
able to hear us.
I think that we've reached the end of our meeting.
Yes, yes,
And I
I
want
think
to
so.
thank everybody for having been here. That was really wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And so next time I will offer a workshop to those people who have read the 10 pages, and I will answer any questions then that come up. The workshop will be in English. It will be very difficult for me to give it in 2 languages or even 3 languages because we have people from different
Yeah.
language groups.
Hopefully within a few weeks, we'll be able to go and take all these recordings and make them available in multiple languages. It's coming.
Bill,
It's
that's
coming.
wonderful. That is wonderful.
Can't do it yet, but well, actually, but it would be expensive. But there is a service that lets us go. But these are 1.5-hour meetings. That's they charge you so much a minute for providing all the different translations. But that's coming down. That'll be available in a few weeks, I think.
Bill, could you make available that the recorded discussion of those 2 people discussing the plan?
Yes,
and then
that's
out for the
there. That's out there. If you go to our SIFA plan WhatsApp site, I will just repost it out there so you can see it. We've started converting it to the front part of it is in video as well, and we'll be adding more video segments to that till the whole thing is in video. It'll take about another 10 days because I can only convert a
let's
minute
just
a day.
use the non-video version. Let's you just
Yeah.
non-use. That
Well,
would be
I can
good.
send out the version that's out there that I'll post both versions, the current video version and the current non-video version, because some of you, as it was pointed out, you have to pay your subscriptions to the internet in your country is by minute used or by megabyte downloaded. So if you are able to look at the MP3 version, that is less than 10% as much bandwidth usage. So that makes more sense for you. So anyway, let's do that.
Okay, Mr. Bill.
Yes.
To say, I want to tell you that I sent you a message by WhatsApp. So I would like that you respond so I can understand well how we will process.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take a special look here to see you. I've got about 1,000 people communicating with me on WhatsApp. So sometimes because the leading one always comes to the top. So sometimes you might be the 30th or the 40th on the list for the day. And I apologize that I don't always see all the messages. But I'll take a special look for you. Thank you.
True.
Well, thank you, everybody, and particularly Bill. You've put a huge amount of work into this, and it's been very clarifying, this discussion that we've had. I think a lot of people will have learned a lot of things about the system, as well as we too as well. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And Bill, thank you very much. And I will set up a clarifying session for next Monday.
Great. Great. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to you watch for the documents because we need your input on documents along the way. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you.